Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Life as a Chad YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I have actually been out of commission for the last couple of days. I had some heat exhaustion, and thus I have kind of gone down the YouTube rabbit hole as much one can do. I've watched hours and hours of content, and a lot of them have to do with Ann Coulter. And, by and large, I think Ann Coulter is one of the rare exceptions of intelligent women. And I would say that I agree with her on most things. But in particular today, there is something that a take of hers that I wanted to react to and just give my thoughts on. And that is that Donald Trump will not win not only will he not win president, but he will not win the Republican nomination. Now, some of these videos go back like 10 months ago, and it's her thoughts on this 10 months ago. But I checked her Substack, and she thinks a lot of this even now. Her most recent Substack, which was done like a month or two ago, where she talks about Nikki Haley, and quite correctly calls Nikki Haley terrible. She also, gives reference to Trump yet again, and the fact when she talks about DeSantis, she calls him the future President DeSantis, and that Trump definitely will not be winning. I mean, this is her on the Sexton show, and she discusses it on this. I'm trying to find it. You guys can't hear it yet, but she is steadfast that Trump will not be the Republican nomination. Now, this was from 6 months ago, and, take with it what you will. So a bit of what she said. She talked about it in various points on the Sexton show, but I did just want to immediately play whichever one I found. So here we go.
A Democrat who could not beat Trump.
I do think that Democrats desperately want to run against Donald Trump. To that end, I have to ask you, the theory that's out.
So she 100% said that there is nobody on the Democratic side that could beat DeSantis, but nearly nobody on the Democratic side who could not lose to Trump. And I find this very interesting. She was a staunch Trump supporter, and I really wanted to play this. Let's see if we can play a little bit more here.
Out there right now about the classified documents thing. This is another area, by the way, because when I was in the CIA,
Republicans and even friends of mine can be a little too conspiracy minded.
Personnel have unclassified email, and you can send somebody, at state.gov or whatever.
So this is her on a different podcast. The reason why I didn't keep it with the Sexton one is because it's kind of spread all out, and I just want to get this video wrapped up. But again, the sentiment is that she does not think that Trump will win the Republican nomination, but DeSantis will. And I will be discussing that after we hear this part.
Deuce the dog.
Are you, one of the things you had discussed, I saw you give a talk a few years ago, is that your hope of America surviving was a fairly small number. With the election of President Trump, you had that number go significantly higher. You very famously have lost your taste for the President Trump as president, to put it mildly, the quote being literal retard. Can you tell me about your relationship with Trump? Because Adios America, your book, which I read, which a lot of people have read, of course, very much framed his candidacy by his own admission. How do you think Trump the candidate differed from Trump the president?
Night and day. I mean,
which I would agree with that. You guys know that I have said on the videos I do about Trump is that You know, on one hand, I think he's good in the way that he's intended and what he kind of resonates off of him, which is he's good as a shock to the system. And ultimately, I am the furthest thing from an establishment conservative. And the status quo when it comes to Republicans and what they deliver to us must change. And I am so fed up with it that I may not even vote at all for any of the Republican candidates that are in office, because something must change. They must stay. They must deliver on their fucking promises that they have made to the American people. And since I have been a kid, they have been failing at that, promising one thing in the on the campaign trail and delivering something opposite. Usually they end up delivering more and compromise more for the Democrats than they deliver for us. Whereas Democrats, when they get in there, they do exactly what they say they're going to do.
I would still write, and during the campaign, I wrote the book In Trump We Trust, which I do still think everyone makes fun of me now since I hate him, and obviously he isn't trustworthy, but I sort of thought it was, well, for one thing, as you know, you got to come up with the title. If you don't like the titles, give me a better title for that. But I mean, it was semi-ironic at the time, because if you read the book In Trump We Trust, I basically say he's an awful person, but he's finally saying the stuff we've been waiting for some candidate to say. You know, if you establishment Republicans, oh, he's such a Bulgarian.
So there you guys have a little bit of it. We will play more. And, you know, really, we did see that come to fruition. And I remember distinctly checking Ann Coulter's Twitter and seeing her getting after Trump daily. When are you going to build the wall? When are you going to build the wall? When are you going to build the wall? When are you going to? And, you know, a lot of us were still in this kind of MAGA kind of, delusion where it was kind of hard to see anything negative or any drawback with Trump. But when you sit back and ask yourself and analyze the promises that he made when he was campaigning and what he actually delivered as president, and it is night and day. It is absolutely night and day. And I would, for the most part, agree with Ann Coulter that campaign Trump was the best we've ever seen. It's one of the best campaigns we've ever seen. And if we could just have campaign Trump with a different president, you know, maybe there would be some different results. Now, I know there are some other conservatives like Nick Fuentes and others that say, no, it has to be Trump. It has to be Trump. And by the way, I have my reservations for DeSantis. I'm not in on DeSantis like Ann Coulter is. You know, he is backed by some shady people that I have some major discrepancies on and holdoffs and reservations about regarding what his priority would be. But you have to ask yourself, would those priorities not be present with Trump either? And I think there's a good chance that the same priorities would exist, sadly. All right, let's keep watching a little bit more of this.
And he's an Arabist. Yeah, okay, I know that. I grew up in Connecticut, outside of New York. I am well familiar with Donald Trump. Didn't learn anything new from all of these attacks on him. I know he's a Bulgarian. But how about running an elegant politician who says he's going to build a wall? How about one of these elegant, well-spoken guys? But they wouldn't give us that. So I would still write the book. I think it's the most magnificent campaign in history. I've even given it to some politicians that I'd like to run for president, some Republicans. I'd like to run for president, you know, inscribing it to them. Fantastic campaign, but actually do it when you become president. The campaign was pretty perfect. And then, I mean, it started to fall apart right around the time he got the nomination. When he fired Corey Lewandowski, there were forebodings. We were all getting a little bit nervous, and suddenly he fires Corey Lewandowski. He had won the nomination with himself, Corey Lewandowski, and Hope Hicks. He didn't have like a team of pollsters and campaign consultants. But then as soon as he gets it, he fires the guy who got him there and brings in his kids. I mean, at Jared Kushner's bidding, he brings in the kids. The transition started to look pretty bad, and my columns during the transition, I was still talking to him then, and so I was gentle.
So just to pause it there, I agree with everything that she said there. Absolutely everything. And, again, it was a night and day situation, the campaign and and what he actually did. And I would even say that his second campaign, when he was running for re-election, not as full blown of a campaign as the first one was, because it was a completely open seat the first time around. He did not campaign on anything that he campaigned about the first time. The second go round, it was all about, diversity and inclusion and wokeness and all the bullshit that you expect to hear in the elites and the establishment of the country, right or left, that all of us Americans are tired of. And Ann Coulter talks about this. And I remember immediately after the election hearing her discuss this, where, Trump, yes, he did appeal to definitely to slightly more African Americans than we are accustomed to, especially some more vocal African Americans than we were accustomed to previously. There were definitely a ton of blacks that came forth on YouTube channels, and Cubans and Hispanics, some folks from the minority groups that came forth in support of Trump. But then in the end, when the numbers actually came out, the amount of each of those populations that voted for Trump was minuscule from what we see in any other election. And Ann Coulter always points out the Ronald Reagan election, where he won by one of the largest and widest margins, yet won the least percentage, the least amount of the smallest percentage of the black vote that we've seen in several presidential campaigns. The people who decide who is going to be president of the United States is the working class white men. Working class and middle class white men. That is who decides who is president of the United States, especially the conservative party. No matter how hard the Republican Party tries to change blacks' minds and Mexicans' mind, it just doesn't matter. They are set. And it certainly is not worth the campaign resources, time, money, and energy. The slight uptick in or slight increase in them voting for a guy like Trump is not worth changing your campaign message. And it certainly is not worth the time, energy, and resources that is required to do something like that. The Republican Party is the party of that represents white men. And I don't think that that's a bad thing to say, because, in general, parties, if you go to Europe and things like that, parties where they have a much bigger party system, parties by and large represent different populations and different segments of the population at large. So there's nothing wrong with saying that. And Trump forgot that. Trump forgot who put him in office. And he thought no matter what, that he would just be able to regain those same people and get those same votes. And the people I'm talking about are the people, of course, who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. Those are the people I'm talking about. Never for, that is just something that is status quo that you need to remember from what I am saying right now, which is that in the end, it is not worth the time, energy, and resources that it takes to appeal to some of these minority groups when If really what it's about is winning elections, you will just focus on your base. That is what is required, is to please your base and the people who care about your message. And in general, I believe that you should not kowtow in order to get some votes out of like desperation and things like that. In general, you should stay truthful and clear to your message. And if people want to come be a part of it, so be it. So be it. But too often does the conservative movement try to get into these different groups, and it changes its message ever so slightly to get involved and to get in it, and it doesn't end up working out. It is far better to stay on point and on message and get the people who, who see it and say, you know what, that is a damn good message, I'm going to be a part of it, rather than you as a message becoming part of them. The message needs to stay the same, and it needs to stay foundational.
Gentle in the columns, and I was gentle on the telephone. But we who supported his campaign platform were already going crazy. And I was warning what was going to happen, and how we'd have to hire the people who would know how to push this through, how the first George Bush, made the promise, no new taxes, and then he raised taxes, and New York Times sneers at him. Then he, of course, loses his election. You can't make a promise like that. And George Bush said at one time at the Republican National Convention, with Trump, it was every rally. It was, on TV.
So I'm going to stop it there. I do believe she ends up talking about DeSantis. And that is the other part that I want to react to here, is Ann Coulter saying that Trump will not win the nomination and that DeSantis will be the Republican nominee. Now, I just simply don't agree with that based off of what we're seeing. Trump is as popular as ever. And like I said, again, I am not saying this to say that I'm all of a sudden on some other conservatives bandwagon. Okay. I'm very much open to Trump regaining his message and surging forth, like we saw previously. But and I was going to do a video on this. I may still. DeSantis fired his campaign manager. I'm going to see if I can find that. DeSantis fired his campaign manager. So, from that standpoint, I'm just not sure that that she's right. Ron DeSantis fires manager. Fires more staffers in campaign shakeup. And he had another campaign video that was kind of odd. I kind of thought it was funny, but this is from NBC News. Ron DeSantis replaces his campaign manager as he is shaking up his campaign leadership. So, and Trump is still far in a way ahead of DeSantis or any other Republican candidate when it comes to the polls. So I'm just not sure that she's accurate on that. But as far as the substance of what she said regarding Trump and what he actually delivered, yeah, it was far below what he had stated in his campaign. And I myself am weary of him. And I really don't know where to turn, because at this point, as a paleo conservative and somebody who is really hoping that we can save America, I'm just not sure that there's anybody out there who it can be done. I am highly considering just not voting at all, both in a referendum to the Republicans at large, and just because I'm not sure any conservative candidate deserves my vote or any of our votes for that matter. And that includes the Democrats. The most important thing is getting that wall built and slowing down immigration. That is the most important thing. I've said that my issues with DeSantis, while there are a lot of things that I like with him, and he does seem to be politically savvy and he does seem to get shit done in office, one of my major concerns with him is his campaign donorship money and his links to certain donors. And I am very concerned that he might just end up being another neocon that gets us in another war and shit like that. Say what you will about Trump, but by and large, he kept us out of wars. With Trump, I'm very concerned about how he does not keep his promises, how he did not build the wall, how, you know, certain tax cuts. And, you know, do you guys remember on the campaign trail, he said that it wasn't fair that, you know, that people in the stock market are given certain tax breaks that are different than the tax breaks that we get as citizens, you know, the normal population of America. And I couldn't agree more. It's not fair. It's not right. And he said he was going to take care of that. And he did not do that. In fact, he did the opposite. He gave a tax break to them again. So anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think. Very interesting from Ann Coulter. This is definitely something to monitor. I'm open to things changing. But I got to tell you guys, I really am not optimistic. I don't really see a glimmering light anywhere. And, you know, really ultimately, like I said, with Trump, there's positives, but there are certainly drawbacks. And with DeSantis, there's positives and there are major drawbacks as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support a fellow king out. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. And facts are feelings because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, King. See you guys next time. Peace.